By the late 1990s, the EE-9 Cascavels and the EE-11 Urutus of the Brazilian Army were nearing 25 years of service and becoming obsolete. This obsolescence was further confirmed in the peacekeeping missions carried out in the 1990s by the Brazilian Army for the UN in Mozambique and Congo, and in the missions to Haiti during the 2000s. Urban combat experiences there exposed the flaws and shortcomings of the EE-9 and EE-11, causing the vehicles to undergo various overhauls, but, more importantly, making clear that Brazil needed something new. Hello, and welcome to another Tank Encyclopedia voiced article. I'm your host, Dan, and today I'll be covering the Guarani. If you like our videos and want to support us, please consider donating on Patreon or PayPal. All the funds will be used to improve future Tank Encyclopedia content. Any help would be greatly appreciated. The Brazilian Army decided to create a new vehicle to replace the old Inguessa vehicles. The first real steps were taken in 2007, with the selection of IVECO for development with the Brazilian Army and production in Brazil. The resulting vehicle, known as the Guarani, was accepted into service in 2012, and is gradually equipping the regiments of the Brazilian Army. Before we go further, we first want to clarify which Guarani vehicles we constitute as the VBTP-APC Guarani. The VBTP Guarani consists of Guaranis with armament up to 12.7mm machine guns, while the 30mm armed Guaranis are considered to be VBCIs, or rather, infantry fighting vehicle versions. Although the VBCI and other variants will be mentioned, this vehicle and article will be about the VBTP Guarani. For a much more in-depth look at the Guarani, we highly suggest you take a look at the article on it in the Tank Encyclopedia website, link in the description. Today's sponsor is World of Warships. World of Warships is a free-to-play multiplayer arcade game for PC, featuring team-based sea battles where over 400 historic warships duke it out. From small destroyers, jack-of-all-trades cruisers, mighty battleships, carriers with pesky flyboys, or, new to the game, even submarines. You can join events and fulfill missions for rewards, or even get Godzilla as the captain of your ship if that's what you're into. Ships were a major source of inspiration for the appearance of the tank. The first tanks on the battlefield, the British rhomboids, drew both their inspiration and their terminology from warships, being developed by the Landship Committee of the Admiralty. Thus, hull, turret, and sponson are all naval terms. If you want to have fun at the game or just have a look at the models, and be inspired to learn about them and their history afterwards, you can download World of Warships for free. Use the promo code FIRE, that's F-I-R-E, when you sign up to get a huge starter bonus for any new captains joining the game, consisting of 200 doubloons, 1 million in-game credits, 20 camouflages, 7 days of premium account, and the mighty battleship USS Texas. In 1990, the Brazilian Army issued a request for a new family of wheeled vehicles with amphibious capabilities. Initially, an evolution of existing armored vehicles was planned, named Nova Família de Blindados de Rodas, New Family of Armored Vehicles on Wheels, henceforth NFBR. Documents were issued on the project with possible configurations for a 6x6 platform and a possible 8x8 platform for a 105mm gun. The Brazilian Army opened a bidding for the contracts in 2005 to receive proposals from companies for the production of the NFBR. The announcement listed a series of specifications, stressing that the project would belong to the Brazilian Army and not to the individual company. Unfortunately, only 2 companies applied for the contract, with only Columbus submitting complete documentation, despite Columbus not having the capability to take on such a project. A new bidding process was opened in 2007 for the now designated Nova Família de Média Blindados de Rodas, or New Family of Medium Armored Vehicles on Wheels, henceforth NFMBR. IVECO's Fiat Automobiles SA won the contract. Later in 2007, a concept design for the NFMBR was presented to the LAAD Defense and Security, LAAD standing for Latin America Aero and Defense, the most important yearly defense expo of Latin America, comparable to Eurosatory in Europe. In total, 10 different variants of the vehicle were proposed, which include an APC, IFV, mortar and reconnaissance vehicle. 2 years after the contract was signed, at the 2009 LAAD, a full-scale mock-up of the new design was presented. In essence, the now designated VBTP Guarani is a shorter Super AV, which was developed parallel to the Guarani. The Super AV and Guarani are in turn a further development of the Freccia, which in turn is a variant of the B-1 Centauro hull. The assembly of the prototype began in 2009 and was completed in March 2011. The assembly of a second vehicle began in the same month and was to be used for IED tests, for which the vehicle managed to withstand a 6-kilogram IED under a wheel. The vehicle would be tested by the Army in the same year and was accepted into service in 2012. The contract for the delivery of 2,044 units by 2030 was signed, but was delayed to 2040, and some recent sources suggest the number has been lowered to 1,580. The first batch was delivered in March 2014, and by June 2019, 400 vehicles were delivered. This number was increased to 500 in October 2020. The engine of the Guarani is positioned in the front right of the vehicle, and the driver is located in the front left. The commander is behind the driver, while the gunner is in turn located to the right of the commander. Up to 8 fully equipped soldiers can be transported in an air-conditioned troop compartment. Finally, 2 hatches are located above the troop compartment at the rear of the vehicle. The vehicle is covered with numerous mounting points for upgrade packages, flotation blocks, and baggage racks. The base Guarani, without any additional armor, is said to comply with STANAG 4569 Level 3 against gunfire from all sides. This means that the Guarani is impervious to 7.62 NATO armor-piercing rounds fired from 30 meters at the vehicle. The frontal armor of the base Guarani is said to be impervious to 12.7mm Browning armor-piercing rounds fired from 100 meters, which gives it a STANAG level of 3+. Depending on the theater, the benches and floor plates of the troop compartment are heightened to increase crew survivability against IEDs and mines. The protection level of the Guarani can be further upgraded with a modular composite armor plate package from Alltech. The package raises the protection to STANAG level 3+ from all sides, making it capable of stopping 12.7mm Browning AP rounds fired from 100 meters. The frontal armor with the Alltech package is said to be able to stop 25mm Ehrlichen APDST rounds at 1,000 meters. Finally, the Guarani can be fitted with Ultraflex fence from Playsan, which is meant to improve the protection of the Guarani against RPGs. The Alltech composite armor package can be used with the Playsan Ultraflex fence. The vehicle is an IVECO FPT Cursor 9 6-cylinder 383 horsepower diesel bifuel engine, which enables the 18.5-ton vehicle to reach 100 km per hour on roads, with an operational range of 600 kilometers. The Guarani has a central tire inflation system, which allows the Guarani to control the pressure in the tires for a greater grip and safety in certain conditions. The vehicle is able to cross rivers at 9 km per hour through the use of 2 propellers. The VBTP Guarani can be seen in multiple versions. The most basic version is the unarmed version. The second version is the VBTP armed with the Remax RCWS turret, or remote-controlled weapon system. The third version is the manned Alan Platt MR550 turret, meant for low-intensity and peacekeeping missions. The Remax turret was developed through a partnership between Ares and the Brazilian Army. The turret is operated remotely by the gunner inside the vehicle and is armed with a 12.7mm machine gun and a secondary 7.62mm machine gun. It has 4 76mm smoke grenade launchers, laser rangefinders, as well as night, day, and thermal sensors. The Remax is effectively the main armament of the Guarani series. As of June 2020, Ares offers 2 manned reman turrets to the AGR Rio Arsenal of War to be mounted on the Guarani. The reman turret has undergone testing by the Brazilian Army in mid-September 2021, but no further details have been released as of this broadcast. This turret might replace the Australian Alan Platt. One of the main requirements was that the Guarani was supposed to be a family of vehicles. Currently, Brazil has plans to put 6 variants into service, although a large range of other variants can be developed. We will only briefly go over some variants in development, so please, go to the article on the website to get a better analysis of the variants which are being considered by the Brazilian Army. The first variant, apart from the base VBTP Guarani, is the VBCI Guarani. The VBCI Guarani is the 30mm autocannon-armed vehicle on the UT-30BR turret. A few UT-30BR armed Guaranis have been built, and some of them are either in service or being tested. The development of the VBCI is still somewhat uncertain, as the Army is making steps that suggest they will adopt the UT-30BR, but there have also been messages which state that they are looking into the TORC-30 and the UT-30 Mark II turrets. In addition to the VBCI, a mortar carrier version is planned as well, for which several companies have offered their weapon systems. These include the Ares Elbit Spear, an evolution of the Cardam 120mm gun, Ruag Cobra 120mm, Thales 2R2M, and the Norinco SM5. The other three planned variants are the VBE-PC, VBTE-AMB, and the VBCENG, which are command post, ambulance, and engineering vehicles respectively. The engineering vehicle is planned to be outfitted with an excavator arm, a bulldozer, and a loader ladle developed by Pearson. Initial tests were carried out in September 2021. No further noteworthy details have been released. In February 2018, President Michel Temer approved the federal intervention in the state of Rio de Janeiro, with the aim of alleviating the internal security situation. Several operations were mounted aimed at pacifying the slums of the state. In the midst of operations, the VBTP-MR Guarani made its first debut in a low-intensity theater, being used in GLO operations, or Guarantee of Law and Order. The intervention ended in January 2019, with the results being questionable due to the increase in deaths in the state, but with a reduction in robberies and assaults. Due to the distance between the hull of the vehicle and the ground, the Guarani suffers from a possibly chronic problem. Even though it was not used in a large-scale theater, several vehicles have tipped over during operations and exercises. Fortunately, none of these accidents caused any serious or fatal injuries, with everyone involved only leaving with light injuries. Although the center of mass of the Guarani is relatively high due to it needing to resist IEDs, these incidents can't completely be blamed on heirs of the Guarani. Most of the instances which caused the Guarani to flip were quite extreme, in which no vehicle could be expected to not flip over. Usually, the incidents included the Guarani driving fairly quickly when the driver suddenly needed to react to a circumstance. The Guarani was steered into a ditch or a heavily sloped hill, which caused the vehicle to flip over. The main regions that IVECO hopes to sell the Guarani to are South America and Africa. Since the Guarani is relatively cheap due to Brazilian wages and other factors, they hope to meet the needs of these continents. Lebanon was the first customer of the Guarani, buying 10 Guarani APCs for the Lebanese Internal Security Forces in 2015, which were delivered in 2017. The Philippines have ordered 28 Guarani vehicles through Elbit Systems as part of a modernization program of the Philippine Army. Their original modernization plans called for 114 wheeled APCs, so it is possible that the Philippines will order an additional 86 Guaranis after delivery of the first 28. In early July 2021, Elbit Systems announced the signing of a contract with Ghana for an additional order of 11 Guaranis. The vehicle is to be armed with a remote-controlled weapons station to be provided by Ares, the manufacturer of the Remax RCWS. It is unknown if the Remax RCWS will be mounted on the future Ghanese Guaranis. Since 2008, Argentina has made plans to incorporate wheeled vehicles into their army. In 2011, Army specialists traveled to Europe to see the various wheeled vehicles that were available. There they came in contact with IVECO and, as such, with the Guarani. The Guarani was evaluated in 2012 and was well received by the Argentinian army. Although negotiations were made between IVECO and Argentina for the possible acquisition of 14 Guaranis, it did not result in procurement. Currently, 3 wheeled vehicles are said to be being studied by the Argentinian army for adoption. The Chinese 8x8 VN-1, the Striker, and the Guarani. On October 26, 2020, the Argentinian Minister of Defense visited the IVECO factory in Brazil. The Guarani was again presented during a practical demonstration and, like in 2012, impressed the Argentine officials. The Guarani was invited by the Argentinian army to perform trials as one of the finalists of Argentina's wheeled vehicle project. A test vehicle was sent for testing in between May 25th to June 24th, 2021. The vehicle was first tested for its general mobility capabilities, which it is said to have passed all the tests. It was then tested by performing various day and night exercises and performing an off-road mobility test. The vehicle managed to pass all tests at the second stage. Finally, the Guarani was tested on sandy terrain and performed shooting trials with the Remax remote-controlled turret. The shooting trials consisted of day and night shooting and firing on the move. The vehicle was said to have again passed all the tests, and the trials in Argentina were an overall success. No orders have been made despite the excellent results. After 50 years, it seems that the Brazilian army has managed to find its successor to the EE-11 Urutu. The Guarani seems to be the new pride of the Brazilian army, partially because it is nationally produced. The Guarani project achieved its goal of bringing in the technology to build modern vehicles, but, in a way, Brazil is once again dependent on a foreign nation for their armored vehicles, considering the vehicle was co-developed and built by IVECO. The biggest threat to the Guarani armored vehicle is Brazil itself, though. Military spending has always been an issue for the Brazilian army and defense industry. With the budgetary delays of the Guarani deliveries from 2030 to 2040, and the suggested reduction from 2,044 to 1,580 vehicles, the acquisition of the Guarani might face more challenges in the future. Overall, the Guarani is the vehicle that the Brazilian army wanted, and a worthy successor to the successful EE-11 Urutu. It seems to perform adequately, and there is reasonable foreign interest in the vehicle. Whether it will become as successful as the EE-9 Cascavel on the export market remains to be seen, but it is an important step for Brazil nonetheless. This concludes our analysis of the VBTP Guarani. If you like our videos and want to support us, please consider donating on Patreon or PayPal. All the funds will be used to improve future Tank Encyclopedia content. Until then, keep us in your sights.